want to welcome everyone for being here for the next hour with Pat as we get to know her better and we get to watch her demonstrate her process. I want to just give you a little tiny introduction. Pat lives on Vancouver Island currently in Canada, but she was born in Saskatchewan on a farm. And Nancy, you might want to mute yourself. No problem. Oh, it's not Nancy, is it?
Could be.
Could be.
Is it me?
Yes, you might want to mute yourself. Because that little munchkin was in there.
Yeah.
Oh, and before I introduce Pat, I just want to give you a little bit of housekeeping. Hello, I'm Lynn Mazzara. I'm a navigator with Mastrius, and I'm a navigator for Pat in her mentorship group that starts in April. I'm going to be the host for today. I live in Creston, British Columbia, and I am a self-taught mixed media artist. So I'm very excited to be working with Pat. This meeting is being recorded and will be going up on the YouTube channel for Mastrius. So if you're not comfortable with that, please feel free to turn off your camera. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. But of course, we would love you to be here. And this is a very casual and interactive hour. So if you have questions, please ask them. Or if it's more comfortable for you, type them in the chat and I will ask for you. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping. Let me introduce you to Patt Scrivener, who, as I just said, lives on Vancouver Island, but was born in Saskatchewan. She is a Canadian mixed media artist. Why I'm so excited to be working with her is she works intuitively with most of her imagery coming from her imagination. And she's a process painter, which means she's not concerned so much with the results, but rather with the journey. She uses a lot of unorthodox tools to create her paintings. Again, something I'm excited about. And she is very passionate about encouraging and inspiring and teaching other artists, especially at the beginning of their journey. So welcome, Pat. I'm going to spotlight you so that everybody can see you as the main image. And I'm going to ask you, Pat, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Yeah, hi, everyone. So happy that some of you came on live and feel free to ask questions like Lynn said. So as you know, I'm an artist and I think I've always been an artist or a creator. I've done a lot of different artistic things in my life and tried a lot of things before I kind of settled down to painting. But I still dabble in other stuff. I can't help myself. I just yeah, I like trying different things. So I've been painting as long as I can remember, or doing some kind of art, whether it's drawing or painting. So I started with I think I started mostly with silk, painting on silk, which is a very hard medium to work on. And then I transitioned to watercolors. And with both those mediums, I love the spontaneity, but I was kind of a little bit bored. I took a lot of workshops along the way, and most of them were, you know, this goes back like 40 years ago kind of thing. And they were more realistic, or set up a still life, paint the still life, paint from a photo or whatever. And those things they just didn't really hook into my personality the way that got me excited. So it was in, I believe, 2000 that I took a workshop, a 1-week workshop from Maxine Masterfield, who's an artist from Florida. and she's very experimental. She started the Society of Experimental Artists, and I took that 1 week workshop, and it was just so amazing. It just kind of turned me on because it was mixed media. It was very exploratory. And that was the turning point for me. I went from kind of dabbling and trying different things to like, oh my God, this is what I love. And so from then on, I kind of started working in mixed media and doing much more exploring. And since then, I've gone into trying encaustic as well, which I don't work in too much anymore, but I did work in encaustic for a while. And then I kind of transitioned from that into cold wax and oil. So I like the cold wax and oil a lot as well, and it has a lot of differences to acrylic, but it has similarities. You can work with it as a mixed media medium as well. So today I'm working in acrylic, and I do work in acrylic quite a bit. It's a bit less messy than the cold wax, and it dries faster. So yeah, I just love exploring all mediums, and I love teaching. I have been a teacher professionally, not with a degree in education, but I taught at the, excuse me, I taught at Olds College in Alberta. I was the faculty member for the floral design course. And I taught also at Mount Royal College in, well, it was college at the time, is now university in Calgary. I developed a floral design certificate program for them, and I taught for the Calgary Board of Education as well in their continuing education program. Prior to that, I taught for Saskatoon Parks and Rec for several years when I lived and owned a flower shop in Saskatoon. So my background has basically been in the creative world for my whole adult life. I've either been owning, so it's been creative entrepreneurship, I guess, both things. I've owned businesses. I've pretty much been self-employed my entire adult life. I started a brick and mortar flower shop when I was 23 years old and had that for 10 years. And then I worked a bit at Olds College. After that, 1 year full-time and 6 years part-time. And then I just kind of segued into doing interior styling, and I had a couple of other businesses going on in Calgary. And all the time I was dabbling in background in art. So I've kind of always been in this artistic world in one way or another, and I've been teaching and sharing my knowledge. And I'm very passionate about sharing. I've always done that. I've never thought that my knowledge was proprietary and I had to keep it to myself. I love teaching and helping other people get their spark plugs kind of turned on. So yeah, I hope that's what I can bring to the table.
I'm sure you're going to be, you're already inspiring us and you haven't even started. and we are really happy and excited to be having you as part of the Mastrius mentorship. And I just want to mention to everyone that Pat does have a mentorship starting up April the 16th, the third Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So that would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time for those of you in the East. And she is going to lead us on a journey right now of how she begins her process and then demonstrate for us figures, which is something I'm just itching to get into.
So I'll tell you just a little bit about about figures and what I do and how this came about. So I really started when I started painting mixed media, I was doing much more non-objective abstract work. And I did a lot of markets when I moved to Vancouver Island and transitioned to becoming a full-time artist. I had to market myself. So I went to a lot of outdoor markets, and I was at one particular market where they had it set up where the tents were really close and there was an aisle down the middle where all the people walked. And I always paint outdoors at outdoor markets. So I had my easel set up and I was painting and just, you know, doing my thing, messing around, making lines and marks. And every time I kept coming back to my painting, I'd be glancing at the crowd and I'd come back to my painting, and I started seeing figures in my painting. I mean, it was just like they were just showing up. And so I started embracing that and started creating these figures in my work. And so this kind of the first time I had done figures, and I'm outside and people are watching me and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it. And so then I had some collage material there, and I thought, well, I want to put an arm on this person, but I really don't know how to paint it, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'm going to cut an arm out of my dictionary text that I had. And I started fiddling around, cutting out arms and hats and pasting them on. And anyway, from that, here I am today, you know, it's like 10 years or 12 years later. And I've just continued painting a lot of figures amongst other things. But so that's kind of how the figures came about. I didn't go, wow, I want to be a figure painter. It's just one of those things that I segued into. So
How inspiring. How inspiring.
so I started with a messy background, and I'm not going to show you how to do a messy background. I think most people can probably figure out how to do a messy background, but I do have videos on YouTube about that. So a lot of my messy backgrounds now come from cleaning out my paintbrush. And so you'll see I have a canvas beside there. And I first started cleaning my paintbrush out on a telephone book, which those are extinct now. So I had moved to deli paper, and I would use these things as collage paper. But then I got so much. And so then I started doing it in journals, cleaning my paintbrush. So then I make backgrounds of journal pages. And then I filled up a few journals and was like, oh, wow, like, why don't I just put it on a canvas? So I started doing it on the canvas. So I'm always making a new background for my next painting as I go. So you'll see me just putting the paint on. And so the background could have evolved over several different paintings and palettes. And I'm not too concerned about what all is on there. I just want a big jumble of a mess. And then I start to look at it when it's got lots of information, and I might stencil on it and, you know, write into a journal on it, all kinds of stuff. So really messy. And then it's got to have a lot of information to start seeing things, at least for me. So I'm going to share my screen and show you kind of how I develop it, because the first thing I do is now that we have technology, I think it's wise to embrace the tools. And I do a lot of my work on an app before I go on to the painting. It just speeds up my process. And something about being able to see things small when it's scaled down. So yes. I use an app called UDoodle. There we go. And I've taken the background painting into the app. So you can use, you know, Photoshop or ArtRage or Procreate, or, you know, there's numerous ones, but this is just a little app. It's called UDoodle, as in Y-O-U, doodle. And it's very inexpensive, and you can edit a photo and you can draw on top of it. And so for this, I don't do much, but what I try to do is find some figures in it. And I'll maybe start by finding a shoulder or a head or some part of the body will come forward. And once you get something started, you'll start to see more. And then so you can develop some, you know, some new shapes, some different shapes. And so part of it's imaginary and part of it is actually finding stuff in the messy background. So I come up with a few ideas before I decide what to do. So this again has a group of figures, but you can see that they're different. It's not their whole bodies.
And you're just using like a negative painting style, or just blocking out the background to make the image
Yes.
appear.
Yes, exactly. I paint my imagery, yeah, backwards. Negative painting. I paint around them instead of in them. So this is my third mock-up of things I could do with this. So each time I try this, I'm actually turning the canvas to see different options.
Pat, is this the background you're going to be working on today that you're
Yeah,
showing?
these are all the same backgrounds I'm showing you. Yes.
Oh, could
This
you
is
go back? Could you go back and show us again the first,
Okay.
now that we know that?
Sure.
And look at the first one and the second one. Oh, this is wonderful.
Can I ask a question a second?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering if your searching and seeking out these figures is just kind of a random process. You have not in any way established any sort of figurative type images in your messy background in advance. Am I understanding?
Absolutely. I have not. I may have in some cases, and when I'm teaching it, I ask people to use something that might be an oval or a circular stamp to give an indication. It would be a starting place for a face, but I don't particularly or necessarily do that. Yeah, so I just make this big messy background and then I find something in it, some starting point, and then I just jump off from there, and one thing kind of leads to another. So that's the first mock-up I did, and I didn't spend a lot of time on these. Sometimes I will spend a lot more time once I decide on the one, and I'll really work on it quite a bit. But these are like fast sketches you might do in your sketchbook. So these all have the same background, but I probably turned the canvas. So let's okay, so let's take this little squiggly line here at the bottom of the,
Yep.
yeah, you can see that.
Mhm.
Okay, and so we'll see if that shows up in other pictures. Bubble wrap is a good, like this is bubble wrap, these little
Mhm.
dots. Let's see where they show up. And so you can see that I turned the canvas. So let me see.
Oh, yes.
So you can see that this has been rotated around. The squiggly line is up here and
Mhm.
bubble wrap is on this side. So that was a 180 turn on that. Sorry,
No.
I lost my image there. Come on. Okay, I'm going to stop my share here and try again because it's goofing around on me.
And so this doodle, doodle program is fabulous for helping you determine, like you went from 4 images to, it looks like you're going to go with the 2 images.
Sorry, it's not, no, it's not opening up. Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me try something.
Sure.
No, that didn't work either. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not opening up, but anyway,
I think we have a really good idea of how you came up with your figures.
yeah.
Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when new Mastrius videos are added.
I can show you that last one like this. I have it on my iPad. So So that's the one I decided that I was going to go with, just these two figures. And so my next part of the process is that I block them out with chalkboard chalk.
Oh, not paint.
Not paint. So hang on here a minute. So I just use white chalkboard chalk. I got this big box at the thrift store.
Yay.
Yeah, always kind of looking for things. So you can see on my, I'm going to switch my camera so that you can actually see that better.
I'm gonna remove the spotlight here.
Yeah, you won't have to change the spotlight when.
Oh,
it'll be the same. I'm just changing my camera.
perfect. Yes, we can see that much better.
Okay. So the thing that I do is, after I take it on the iPad, I would come on to my canvas and then I would sketch this on based on the drawing on my iPad and just using chalk. And so then if there's something I don't like or it doesn't look quite right now that I've blown it up, I can make modifications with the chalk and it's just easy to wipe off with wet paper towel. So I have a few extra lines here. I had adjusted the arm a little bit and
Mhm.
I originally was thinking this was a knapsack on the back. That's kind of what I saw. But then when I draw it out here, I thought, oh no, that's her arm going back like this.
Yes. Now, what size is that canvas, Pat?
This is 24 by 24.
Oh, that's a nice size.
So I do work a lot square, but I also do the figures a lot on a 24 by 18 canvas as well. So 20 by 20. This is one that I did just, and it's not finished, but I just did it as a workshop demo for a workshop. So yeah, so 20 by 20, 24 by 24, and of course I work really large too, but these are good price point paintings. The galleries seem to kind of like the smaller work.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, so that's my initial step. So making this messy background, it could have stencils, it could have marks, it could have pattern, and I am looking for a lot of pattern. I'm looking for busyness. That's what I want. And now I'm going to calm it down. So kind of taking it from chaos to order. And I do paint negative, so reductive around the figures. My goal is to not lose everything that I started with. This is my creative energy in here. It's my playfulness. I want to be able to leave some of that showing, and that can be a really tough thing to do. And you can lose it all, but I call this abstraction within the form. So I try and keep the form more abstract and the background a little less busy. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to negative paint the background, and I'm actually not going to paint it out opaque yet. The background can change many times, but I'm going to try with this one, even though I showed you a white background, I'm going to actually make it transparent and a dark. And it might not stay like that, but that's how I'm going to start. So
Hey.
I'm going to use anthraquinone blue to start. So that's a dark blue. I didn't put my paints out, so you just have to bear with me here. I'm gonna put
What
that.
kind of, do you have a brand of acrylic paint that you like better than others, or?
Well, I love golden, but I haven't been buying that lately just because of the price point now with our dollar being so poor against the US dollar. So right now I'm trying a brand called Demco, which is made in Canada, and I'm using fluid paints. I also use chroma paints out of Vancouver off Granville Island because they're straight from the manufacturer to the artist. So they're a good price point. So that's what I use for my heavy body paints. So I start with fluid for sure. And that's what I'm going to use today for this demo. So I'm going to use Liquitex flat paddle brushes for this. I like these because they're wider. I have two sizes, but there's a lot of control. So you can cover a lot of ground. And I mean, I'm a loose painter, so I do like painting with a paintbrush with long handles. But for this blocking in, I like to have the control. So I'm going to use the paddle brush. You know what? This isn't true. This actually isn't anthraquinone blue. It is a mixture.
So I think that's fascinating that she really had.
I don't know who is not muted.
She was a woman of means. She was supported in her creativity. Her father had sent her to have this education.
Oh, I don't know who that is. There we go. I found them. Sorry.
Okay. So I have to confess, I'm using a combined color. I made a mistake when I bought these bottles, large bottles, and I decanted them into a small container, and I added dioxazine purple to my blue. So this is a combo color.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not pure anthraquinone, but I have some purple showing up in here. So
Oh yes, that's very dark.
yeah, so it's going to be dark, but what's going to happen is it's going to leave, it's optically mixing the colors underneath, right?
Yes.
So these colors, they're not going to show up the same, but there's going to be variations in this color. It's not going to be flat. And like I said, that can all change.
Pat, I'm sorry if I missed this. Did you say that you mix a medium in with that, or is that putting that on straight as an acrylic?
This is straight out of the bottle fluid. Yeah.
Okay.
And fluid acrylics tend to be more transparent than the heavy bodies, correct?
No, well, because
Sometimes.
yeah, it's the color. It's the color that's transparent, not necessarily the viscosity.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, but you can make your heavy body paint a little thinner by mixing a medium into it, like GAC 500 or GAC 100, or I don't use much glazing medium because I find glazing medium makes the paint stay open longer. So that's good if you're blending a sky, but if you're painting something like this, I just want to get going on it. I don't want it to be, and I got it dripped there. So this little swirl here. So that just came to me intuitively. So what I was doing there, I'm like, oh my, this could be kind of hair. I'll just leave it for now. Yeah, so one of the things with working upright with the fluids is they can drip like it did there.
Oh, I just love how that paddle brush is putting that paint on so quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, in this step, we want to get the background established. That's our first initial goal is to get these figures so that they're popping forward for us. So on a painting with several people in, you can get really thrown by the legs. The legs can trick you, like you start painting the legs in instead of around them. And sometimes with a lot of figures, there's too many legs. You have to, you know, eliminate some cleverly because it just gets looking a little busy. But yeah, so all of a sudden that starts to really pop those legs forward. And let me know, I try really hard to paint off to the side, but sometimes it's hard.
No, we're being able to see quite nicely. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got to get in a little finer brushing around here. But before I do that, I often try and make marks in this.
So are you just using the end of a paintbrush or
This is a bamboo skewer, pointed end. So just kind of scribbling some energy marks in there. Knitting needles are another thing that can work good too. But yeah, the paint is pretty much dried now, but you know, I might do it in a subsequent layer as well. So let me just come in and see where this is going. So it's really, I'm used to having a bit of a runway where I can stand way back and look at my work. So this is working really up close, and it's very challenging to kind of see where I'm going here. So
from our perspective, it's looking perfect, but I know what you mean. Especially with mixed media, you want to be able to really stand back a good 8-10 feet and see what it looks like.
yeah, I kind of go back and forth to see what I'm doing. So, okay. So, you know, that a lot of stuff can be adjusted here. So things you have to watch for is who's in front and who's behind, you know, like if this person is in front, which this indicates they are, I've got to make sure that this arm is going to end up behind that body. Otherwise it's going to look really odd, right? If part of it is in front and the other part is behind. So she is behind this one. So I'm going to keep that in mind going forward.
So do you kind of give yourself some leeway when you're with your figures that you can, like you're doing carve out and adjust them and they get smaller and smaller?
Yeah, they can change because obviously your mock-in isn't isn't going to be accurate. I don't spend a lot of time drawing on it. I just like quickly sketch it in. So there are going to be adjustments. There's going to be things that are going to say, oh, that's not looking quite right. I need to fix it. That's where opaque paint is your friend. You've got to bring that opaque paint in to fix it. But so that's a block-in stage. The next thing I'm going to do is start adding color into the figures to start to bring them to life, unify them a bit. So clean my brushes.
Well, that's brilliant. The
So-
beginning of another background.
So I am going to put out a little paint here. So I'm kind of guessing at some of the colors that are in the painting here, that there's some cad red medium, maybe cad red dark. There's definitely teal. I think this was airy light yellow, which I only have a bit in a heavy body. So I'm not 100% concerned if it's the same colors, as long as they work together. So I tend to keep my palette pretty simple colors, even though it might look different across different paintings. I don't have a lot of colors in my toolbox. So kind of a primary palette with a cool and a warm. And my things are plugged up. So I got a couple of reds and a blue. And this is a good time to ask me questions.
Is this the kind of thing we can expect in a mentorship with you?
Like demos, you mean?
Demos, or I guess the question is, how are you going to be doing your mentorship? What kinds of things can we expect in a mentorship with you?
Okay, so I think because it's an aspiring group, because I've done a lot of teaching and a lot of also mentorship programs before, I've come to the realization that a lot of people have dived in, not sure that's correct English, to painting, but they don't really understand the basics and the background. So I think a big part for me is getting people to really understand color mixing, understand value, understand composition and design, so that they can make better paintings. And so for me, that would be a beginning part, and I would be doing demos on that, and you would be getting exercises on doing that. And people are always fascinated because they've never spent the time making color charts and really diving into what is their palette, figuring out what they love. So there would be that, and then really trying to bring their own style out. And there's only one way that you develop your style. Anybody know what that is?
We have to paint.
Yeah, you got to show up and practice. Without the practice, you're not going to end up developing your style. So your style develops because you practice, and you learn your brush strokes, and you learn how you like to apply paint. Like, I believe that process and your technique is the most important thing, because if you're not enjoying the process, you're not going to enjoy the painting, or you're not going to enjoy doing it. So I'll give you an example. I took a workshop on glass, making glass, like it was in this case, it was like a sushi tray or something. I love the part of the process of designing the actual piece, of putting those colors together, planning where they go. I hated the process of cutting up all that glass into those little pieces and scratching it and snapping it, and that drove me crazy. It's like, I'll never be a glass artist. Even though I love the design element, I'd have to have an assistant to cut all the pieces for me. Yeah, so you have to love your process, and you have to figure out what that is. And there's so much more than just applying paint with a brush. What are your marks? What do you like making marks with? What do you like adding? Do you like a photo reference, or don't you like a photo reference? And yeah, It's just, you have to find your process to find your style.
That's exciting. I am going to love working with you.
So on this, I'm going to stay as transparent for as long as I can. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to lose a lot of the background yet. So I'm going to use, and this is orange, straight out of the bottle because there's some orange in here. So that's why I chose it. So I'm just going to go over here and, whoops. I made mud with some wet paint. Yeah, so you gotta watch that, but let's try and stay inside the lines. That's a hard game for me. So if you add some color somewhere, add some of it somewhere else. So you can see that I'm toning some of this, but I'm not losing all my underpaintings. And again, I think my background is still kind of wet. Yeah, picked up a little paint in there too.
And this is where your design comes into play. All your experience with design. You just know where to put those dabs of orange.
Well, I don't know. It's just, I just put them somewhere. I'm not too concerned right now, but it's just like, don't paint your painting one piece at a time, like move around, keep your brush moving. And I try and clean a lot of my brush off on my painting. So the other thing to be aware of with transparent colors is you're optically mixing your colors. So what that means is it's going to blend with the color underneath. So be aware of that. So I do not like teal, which is a blended color, and I use it a lot, but it's not a good mixing color. So if I put yellow over this, it's going to turn into a really, for me, ugly green that I hate. So I'm not going to put yellow over it. Like, I know that from experience, that I'm not going to enjoy that. What happens? Like, it's just like, really in your face. So I mean, I might make it green, but I would mute it down. So, but I might put a yellow over some of this, and then I'm getting that really nice green. But over the blue, I don't like it as much, over that teal. So just getting to know that, and I don't really like this pastel-y green in here. So I'm going to put some more color on top of that. And so if I have some there, I want some somewhere else. So yes, I'm still like dabbing around a lot. And then I'm going to make a little bit of opaque and block in a little bit of a face, just so I can establish that a bit.
Hey, we're down to our last 15 minutes. I know I can't believe 45 minutes have flown so quickly. So anyone, if you have any questions, please ask them or type them in the chat and I'll read them for you. So the opaque face, or where the face is going to be, really establishes your figure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to get some of that in so that you could see it, even if it's not the right color. So I'm going to leave these as their pants, I believe, but I'm going to put these as legs. So
Now, can I ask why you only painted half the face of that figure in the opaque paint?
Good question. I want to make a dark and a light side.
Okay. Oh, great.
So she has a dark side, but I'll change that. And my faces will change many times as I go. So that's not really that much darker.
Pat, do you ever add features on your faces?
Yes, a little bit, but not too much. So they might end up having a little eye somewhere, or they might have a couple of dots for a nose, but really, really limited. Really limited. I want to leave that up to the viewer to see. They can see their own people.
I love that. Love that idea. And establish where your light's coming from. Always have to know where your light's coming from.
Yeah. So that's the important thing, is that you don't want to make your faces opposite. So you want to make sure that one side is darker and do the legs the same. So you can see that I shaded the legs half and half as well. And I would just keep adding and subtracting to this until it starts coming together, which it's not coming together quite yet. So I'm going to, I'll do a little bit more, and then maybe I'll put a bit of mixed media with it so you can see something I might use. So I might come in with an opaque paint now as well, and I might start unifying my shape a little so you can see the direction of where it goes. So this looks confusing to me right here. I want more contrast between that. So when you're doing hemlines and stuff too, you want to make sure that you're adding some nice movement to it, that you don't want to just cut that straight across. You know, there needs to be a little bit more than just cut off.
Mhm.
So I use the opaque paint to come in and really start giving a little bit more emphasis to the figures. So I'm going to throw a little red in. So I'm now like starting to think about juicing up my colors a little bit more than they are. And so this looks confusing to me right here too, because the color came up on the leg from the pants. So I want to make sure you know where this dress or top ends. And I think I'll take it right over here. A little brighter there. Let's get some red in the hat. So it's just like, if I put some somewhere, like I need to put some somewhere else. And her hair is not going to stay red, but let's make it red for now. Okay.
Oh, these are looking wonderful. Now we can go into your website and look at your paintings now that we know your process, and see how you developed them, how they came about.
Right. So let me show you a couple of other tricks and stuff that I have. So a lot of times I use stencils. I also use stamps. I use these little rollers, which are from the kids section of the art store, foamy rollers. And let me see, what can I do here? I want to show you how to use that. So I'm going to, let's see. So they're kind of like a brayer where you're gonna put paint on this little roller. I did a messy job of it, but. And now I can come back in and I can roll some. I'll put some up here so you can really see how you can get some pattern happening. So that can be fun.
So this is part of your intuitive process. You just do what feels good.
Yeah, well, right now I'm kind of doing it for you. I might not do that, but yeah, so if I'm starting to get tight and, you know, not feeling like it's going as well as it should, I will start messing it up, bring the child back. And so these are woody stabilos. And so I like using these. So I've got orange in here. I might decide to come in and start journaling on the background. I might write what I'm thinking about, which I'm not right now, but I might write some actual words in, or I might just do a semic writing. So two things integral to my work is really color. I'm a colorist, and mark making. So I love semic writing, and so I do that a lot. So this is water soluble. It will run a bit, but I'm not too worried about that in these initial layers. If you don't want it to run, you can use the Posca pen, acrylic pen, or China markers work well as well to draw in. So a lot of times I like to go around my figures and start, you know, kind of drawing into them, making marks, like maybe establish where I might put a little bit of a face. Just give it a little bit more emphasis. I might use pastels as well near the top, or I might also use graphite to get some drawing like established. This isn't showing up much because it's my stuff is dark, but yeah, so I might use all of those. I add stencil stuff back in for more patterning. And the Posca pens are wonderful if you haven't used stuff like that. So they're acrylic, you want to make sure that you put it against dry acrylic. I can start patterning. And I'm still in the very early layers of this painting, so I don't really care what I do. Like, I just want to still be having fun, and then, you know, I'm not going to resolve it in 30 or 40 minutes on camera, but I'll just keep making decisions and keep playing, and eventually it'll come together.
Wow, it's already amazing to me. What does everyone think? Lots of nods. Everyone's on mute right now. We have 5 minutes left. Is there any one thing you would want to leave us mixed media artists with, piece of advice, or one tip that you wish you had have found earlier or explored?
Well, I think the most important thing is really finding out what turns you on. You want to love what you're doing. So if you are, you know, if you're excited by getting in there and playing and experimenting and seeing what you can do with unusual tools that aren't from the paint store, the art supply store, or are you that person that likes to paint inside the lines and stay in the box and use the photograph? Like, find out what turns your crank. That's the most important thing. And for me, it wasn't until I took a workshop with Maxine Masterfield that I really found where my groove was. Before that, it was like I wanted to paint, but it was just kind of so-so. I wasn't really turned on. So you have to find that. And I think for me, when I came from silk painting and watercolor, I like the spontaneity of that. And so I brought that with me also into my work. I want spontaneity. So I think you just have to figure out what really drives you. Otherwise, you're not going to show up. You're not going to do it because you don't have the passion.
Right. Oh, thank you so much for this, Pat. And thank everybody for joining us. And I did put a link in the chat to both Pat's website, to her video tutorials, if you want to see those, and her work, and also to her Mastrius page. We have a few spots left in our mentorship that starts in April, if you're interested, and you can get all the details at the Mastrius page. And again, that is the third Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. That would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if I just check on my little time buddy here, that would be 9 a.m. on the Gold Coast in Australia and 10 a.m. in the rest of Australia. Gold Coast doesn't do time change. Thank you, Pat. Barb said it was fun watching your process. I really enjoyed it too. I want to thank everyone for being here and thank Pat again for this amazing demo. See you all in Mastrius.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Thanks, everybody.